Alright, starting from a daily chart, going into Thursday. So far we can see that the week here has created a daily swing low. It's obviously coming from the weekly fair value gap. Price overall still respecting the range of the daily fair value gap. Yesterday here being a classic buy day. Okay, this was in anticipation going inside of the day. We can look at that again on the lower time frames later. And obviously it's going to be important to see what this candle left behind. Okay, because so far there is a divergence at the high of Monday. All right, see that from that divergence, price left some kind of a wick behind. Now, obviously this doesn't mean that price will drop lower, but we'll look at what resides inside of this wick. So in terms of premium rate, in case of an open high low close profile today, then I would think that this divergence will hold. Okay, there's a small fair value gap right above it. There's a range of an order block, right, a bearish order block. So these are all premium arrays. In terms of discount arrays, okay, at this point it's the weekly low. On the lower time frames, we have some discount arrays located inside of the range, which we'll look at that. But on the daily chart, right, the closest discount array is the current weekly low, so the low of Tuesday. Okay, so discount array in case of an open high low close profile, new low of the week. And in case today of an open low high close profile, right, low hanging fruit, new high of week, and from there all-time highs. Here looking at the 4-hour chart, we can see the weekly profile here, right, which is obviously high resistance. This is something that I talked about coming inside of the week. Right, price opening in the vicinity of a premium order block, of a discount order block, and you can see how both of these P arrays so far have been used, right, to reaccumulate longs or reaccumulate shorts. Daily profiles have been forming around the quadrants, right, of these two order blocks, and in fact you can see that the week is high resistance because of the fact that there's no obvious fair value gaps being created inside of the current weekly range, right? Sure, there's a tiny one here, but overall you can see that price is high resistance. Okay, so these two order blocks remain relevant, okay, especially if now that price is trading inside of the premium order block, right, say from these levels starts to expand higher and New York opens in premium, you can anticipate that now that the order block of interest from the last week, right, will become a breaker, right? So you can look for long opportunities from there. If not, there's not much else to look at on the 4-hour. We'll look at on the hourly chart what resides around these levels. All right, so here we can see the 3-day look back. Now, obviously, an important level, okay, with the new week opening gap, right? Price consolidated around it in the beginning of the week, had a shakeout above it, eventually displacement lower, revisits it on Tuesday, okay, creates the high of day on Tuesday from the NWAG. And yesterday, okay, being a classic buy day. Again, this was something that we were anticipating because of the order block created in discount on Tuesday, right? In fact, low of day coming right at 50% in Asia, and from there price expands higher. And coming inside New York yesterday, price was consolidating around the new week opening gap, followed by an expansion higher, a retracement inside of it, and another expansion following that. So I think that the new week opening gap here, you know, whether it is or isn't a relevant P rate in terms of your intraday trading, right, say in the New York session, you know, all depends if New York is around the range of it. But what's most important for me is to obviously gauging order flow, but also having an idea of what the weekly profile is. Okay, because say if today right away from the open starts seeing an expansion higher, then I can anticipate that the weekly profile will be classic buy. Okay, so Tuesday low of week. But if by the closure of today, okay, Thursday, or already coming inside New York, now you see price just chopping around it, okay, failing to find an expansion away from the new week opening gap, then in that case we're probably looking at a potential, okay, swing to Z, right? Price should higher, lower, higher, lower, higher, lower, higher, right? Or a right, so seek and destroy or swing to Z. Okay, Tuesday making low of week, Wednesday expanding, and then Thursday, Friday consolidating. Okay, so coming inside New York, very important to see what especially that now Asia is trading right inside of it. Right, does Asia keep expanding lower, creating fair value gaps lower? Then in that case, we're probably looking at a new low of week being created. But we have a dealing range at these levels, right? The previous day's high, the previous day's range here is a dealing range. Price had a shakeout, okay, under the PM session, creating the low of day inside of an order block. This is also an intermediate term low as it closes a BISI. Eventually expands higher, right, and then ends up creating a divergence at Monday's high, and a divergence also between in the PM session with the London close range, right? Nasdaq just trading above it, while the S&P 500 fails to trade above it. Okay, so keep an eye on the NWOG coming inside New York to have an idea of what, again, the weekly profile is. If you come inside New York and price created fair value gaps away from it, then you can anticipate that we're likely trading a classic buy week. If not, if coming inside New York, price chops around it or creates fair value gaps against the NWOG, right, so towards discount, then you can anticipate that it will, you know, if I would have to guess, I would say seek and destroy some kind of consolidation profile. This doesn't really fit the profile of a reversal, right, because of Tuesday here. The fact that Tuesday takes out the previous week's low and rejects from there, right, this to me is not, can be a reversal profile. All right, let's look at the 3-day look back range. You can see here a clear accumulation, right, clear consolidation so far. Market traded the most amount of contracts in the last 3 days, so since the beginning of the week, right at fair value, right at 50% of the range. Now, at these levels, we can find the order block of the dealing range low. Like I was just saying, the previous day's range here having a shakeout at the lows and at the highs, right, and today opening in the middle of that range, or you know, around 25% of it. This left us with a dealing range. So if we look at the profile here, now in this case on the hourly, I mean, in my opinion, you don't really see the order block well. I would need to go on a 4-hour chart. Right, so we have a discount order block at these levels. Sorry if the chart is a bit messy, there's a lot of lines. But in terms of a discount array, I would be using this 4-hour order block from Tuesday. Okay, this leads to the current dealing range that we're trading in inside of the open on Thursday. So discount order block. In fact, you can see even once price traded above it and coming inside New York yesterday, right, then revisits the upper quadrant of it and expands away from it. Right, then looking at the previous day's range being a classic buy, well, you can see that the market traded the most amount of orders around, okay, the Nvidia earnings at these levels. So, and then the fact that the market opens and gaps lower from these levels, right, there's likely an order block left behind, right, which is this series of up close candles on the 15-minute. Why is this an order block? Well, because price trades above, this in the PM session, trades above the London close range, creates a divergence with the S&P 500, and from there trades lower, right? So we have here at these levels a premium order block and a discount order block. Again, this is the dealing range that we're trading inside of, so will be very important, okay, for the daily profile, also for the session profile of New York, to see how price trades around both of these. Okay, there's a lot of possibilities here. One of them, price is very bullish. Asia here makes low of day, expands through it. New York revisits it. This becomes a breaker, right? Bullish breaker, and New York expands from it. Another possibility can be Asia or London trades into these levels, fails, comes back to the discount order block, ends up creating a divergence, okay, either at the Asia lows or at the previous day's New York lows, and then from there trades higher, okay, or consolidates. And the other scenario, which would be a bearish one, or a bearish scenario in terms of a daily profile, so an open, high, low, close profile, would be price going back to the order block, trading lower, leaving fair value gaps through these levels. New York revisits the range, right? Some kind of fair value gap left behind by other sessions, and from those levels trades lower and targets the previous day's low or a new low of week. I think that these are the scenarios that are possible, right? In terms of an open, low, high, close profile, there can also be this, right? Simply one last shakeout under the Asia lows. Doesn't even need to come back under the previous day's New York lows, right? Simply can trade to the high or the upper quadrant, create a divergence somewhere in here, and from those levels trades higher. Okay, so keep these two levels on your chart. Again, this is a 4-hour discount order block, which represents the dealing range low. And here we have a 15-minute or a 1-hour premium order block, which represents the dealing range high. Also, another thing to look at coming inside New York, okay, more for an idea of how the daily profile can be like based on your anticipation of the weekly profile, is how the NWOG, the new week opening gap here is treated. Okay, any fair value gaps away from it, right, on either side, or consolidation around it. Okay, so keep these levels and we'll see what tomorrow gives.